Have you ever been in an uproarious, ear-splitting cafeteria with clanging and shrieking echoing from every shiny surface? Recently, I visited a cafeteria in an elementary school where students were rushing into the cafeteria in clumps and in groups, no teachers or staff in sight. They were allowed to sit anywhere they wanted, and I watched kids mill around in uncertainty, some appearing really distressed. Other students were racing from table to table in hyperactive glee. Students shouted louder and louder to be heard, while others covered their ears to the deafening noise. I saw students stand up, sit down, walk around, drop food, change seats, and finally 2 boys grabbed and pulled each other to the floor. A staff member walked over to them and sent them to sit at the red cone table, which I guess was the naughty table. All of a sudden, I noticed kids starting to stand up, and then they went and threw away all of their untouched food. They started to swarm around the doors, and they were waiting to be released by the staff to go play. So while the kids were milling around by the closed doors, the staff started to put the tables away. Wham, wham, wham on this echoing room, these loud clanging blasts. I about jumped out of my skin. Is this what lunchtime is like at your school? Here are a few simple suggestions that I have for you to make your cafeteria or outdoor eating area better for both kids and adults. Number 1, timing matters. Supervision staff should be on time so that teachers and kids can eat. Even 2 minutes late, the whole system can fall apart. So if your supervision schedule prevents a staff member who's responsible to supervise the kids from being on time, then the schedule needs to be changed. Food should also be served on time. Food service workers should not serve kids until an exact time that everyone has agreed upon, and only when there's adults there to supervise the students. Number 2, lines are good for kids. Now that may sound rigid, but an orderly school means peace, calm, and safety for students. Students should learn and practice walking in straight lines with hands at their sides, facing forward. Try having teachers walk students in a single file line from the classroom all the way to the cafeteria and not just stand at their door and watch them go. Once they see that there's a staff member ready to supervise, then the teacher can leave and go get their lunch. Eventually, when a class shows that they can transition in line independently from their teacher, they could earn the privilege of walking without an adult. The nice thing about this is that that privilege can be easily revoked if the class demonstrates that they can't handle this freedom. Number 3, assigned seats. In order to reduce social anxiety and noise, try having students sit at designated tables with their class. When kids know where they can sit, they don't need to struggle through the social minefield of asking people if they can join, asking people to shift over, and risk rejection. If you're a fan of social mixing, just add some structure, like put one class on one side of the table and another class on the other side of the table. As long as it's assigned, most kids can stay in check. Next, volume tricks. If volume is an issue in the cafeteria, try seating the kids only on one side of the table. A lot of the problems with noise is because kids are yelling across the table to their peers. Talking to the person next to you is much quieter. If you don't have the space, then just put students of a different grade level across from each other. You don't often see 3rd graders having a deep discussion with 1st graders. Also, be mindful of students with sensory needs. The echoing capacity of a cafeteria with regards to voices is amplified when you add slamming tables and trays and doors. Is there anything that you can do about reducing these activities until students are dismissed? Next, play, then eat. By changing the order of when kids play and eat, you can actually encourage students to eat more of their lunch, eat more fruits and vegetables, have fewer upset stomachs, and return to class calmly and ready to learn. Play before eat means that students have recess first, then they go and eat lunch. Students tend to take more time to eat, and they even practice conversational skills at the table. When lunch is over, their teacher comes and picks them up directly from their lunch table to transition them back to class. Next, use visual cues instead of yelling. I once knew an elementary school custodian who managed an entire lunch routine with 200 students at a time using only hand signals. I'm not sure how this particularly gifted individual became the lunch monitor, but the staff didn't stand in his way. Students watched him and they would respond to cues to clean up, be seated, quiet down, and be excused, all with hand motions. It was remarkable. Now, in the absence of a talented custodian, I have found the cone system to be replicable in almost any elementary school. It allows supervision staff to use visual cues of red, yellow, and green cones at the end of each table. While students are eating, the cone is set to red. Supervisors move up and down the aisles. They deliver a lot of positive contact, positive reinforcement, and then sometimes they correct behavior. When it's time to clean up, the supervisor changes the red to yellow. The kids see the yellow cone even if they didn't hear the instruction. They know that they can get up with the yellow cone and clear their area. They pick up any trash off the floor, and finally, when the supervisor decides the students have cleaned their area and they're sitting respectfully, they'll switch it to green. Now it's time for the teacher to walk the students quietly back to class or be excused for recess, depending on your schedule. Next, transitions are not your friend. Probably the most common issue I see in lunchtime routines is too many transitions. For example, students are sitting to eat. Then they're excused to clear their tray and return to their table. Then they're excused to line up somewhere. Then they walk to some midway point and then they wait for the yard supervisor to release them to the playground. Now, anyone that's worked or lived with kids any length of time knows that the hardest thing to do with kids is to get them from point A to point B, from house to car, from dinner to bath time, from playtime to bedtime. Transitions by their very nature are a lack of structure, a lack of supervision, and an increase in chaotic interactions with their peers. When we ask kids to transition too many times, it taxes their patience and their coping skills. They make poor choices, they engage in peer conflicts, and they generally make more behavioral errors. If possible, excuse students from the table to walk in line directly to recess, and better yet, have their teacher come to the table to pick them up for class if you're doing play before eat. Eliminate unnecessary transitions and you'll improve behavior. These are just a few ways to calm down this crazy space in school so that children are able to focus on eating and socialize without stress. In the comments below, add in some other tricks that you've tried in your school cafeteria or outdoor eating area that help kids. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe and join our community of educators creating safe, more positive, and restorative schools today.